Greetings and salutations. So we're back to talking about a bit of history, I suppose. And previously we talked about the idea of what if Abraham Lincoln was bisexual. So today we're looking at the idea of, did homosexual Neanderthals exist? So let's talk about it. Before we do that, we need to discuss the idea of what exactly were Neanderthals.
So what exactly were Neanderthals? An extinct species of human that was widely distributed in Ice Age Europe between 120,000 to 35,000 years ago, with a receding forehead and prominent brow ridges. The Neanderthals were associated with the Mousterian flint industry of the Middle Paleolithic.
So now that we know what they were, let's look at this idea. There are claims of gay marriage among Neanderthals. There are ceremonies that were attended by large stone hunter-gatherers that took place in caves in southern France approximately 12,000 years ago during the Ice Age. Dr. Henrik Nordwall of the University of Vermont at the Center for Biochemical, Statistical, and Expressive Anthropology had said of the cave paintings, in quote, Dr. Nordwall has said evidence of gay marriage. We don't know how common same-sex relationships were among Ice Age tribes, but he did say it was pretty widespread. In 2011, archaeologists had unearthed a 5,000-year-old remains of what they had believed to be the oldest gay caveman. The body was said to be dated around 29,000 to 25,000 BC, before Christ. The body was buried in a way that was reserved mostly for females of the Cold War culture. Where was the body located, though? A Prague suburb in Czech Republic. Its head was pointed eastward and had been surrounded by domestic jugs, which were usually buried with female graves. So, during the Cold War, which had started late in the Stone Age and continued in the Bronze Age, men were usually buried lying on the right side with their head pointing toward the west, while women were buried on the right, pointing toward the east. Men were usually buried with weapons, tools, or drinks, while women were buried with jewelry, pets, and copper earrings, jugs, and egg-shaped pots. This individual could have been a Siberian shaman or latter-day witch doctors who were buried with richer funeral accessories to signify their status. Archaeologist Katrin Medvedoff say that this later discovery was neither an idea, but perhaps the man could have been gay or transsexual. So, what are my views on all this? Well, the ideas of perhaps, say, Neanderthal, tribes, folk, perhaps being, homosexual, in my view, it's a possibility, but thinking about this, honestly, is, it'd be a little bit difficult to try to figure, say, the way, besides giving through the idea of cultures during that time period, say, well, what were they buried with, and all that stuff. Well, then suddenly you'd be thinking, say, what if this individual had a sense of higher status, and, then, say, if it was a man, then you think, say, well, why did this dude have animals, or jewelry, or something like that, or something else? Well, then, unfortunately, then you're also going into the fact of, just because, say, someone is buried with, say, a necklace or something, then suddenly you're gonna be thinking, say, What if they were like that? It'd be hard to say, because then you'd be like, say, well, what if they weren't bearing with anything? How would you want to tell, like, based on their sex of that time period? So, in my honest opinion, like, say, the idea of homosexual Neanderthals, I think it's a little bit hard to figure out. And I'll be honest, like, when I was doing this, some of the sources were a little bit older, so yeah, not very many, like, more recent ideas to go from. But that's just how I feel. That's just what my research had helped me kind of figure out.